next painting, all you need is one piece of fruit. I recommend a handheld size fruit, not a small berry, not grapes with multiples, just one medium sized piece of fruit that's all one color. So don't choose, let's say, an apple that's both red and green. Try and choose one solid color. As you can see back here, I have chosen a lemon. And so you are going to need a light source again for this painting. So you're going to take a piece of fruit, put it on a piece of paper, and shine a direct light source on it so that you get a nice cast shadow. So again, just put on a white surface or on a white piece of paper and shine that light on it so that you get a clear area of light, a clear area of shadow, and that nice cast shadow. You'll need your palette, and for the first time, we are going to be doing two things. We're going to be using a full palette, meaning all the colors in your kit, but we're still going to hold off on black. You're only going to use black in that final painting in the next assignment. So all of your colors, that's 10 different colors that came in the painting kit, with the exception of black. And so that's called a full palette. Whenever you work on a full palette, you are going to put all of those colors on the palette. If something runs out, you need to replenish it right away on the palette so that we don't get lazy and we keep mixing that color in when needed. And we're also going to be working on a new painting technique called color faceting. Right? So after I give you this kind of brief overview of the assignment, the video is going to then cut to the live demonstration sped up of me making this painting so you can see how it's done. So what color faceting is, you take color, so we're using color, and you're creating facets, which means large shapes of color, right? So if you see the examples that I'm showing right now, each of these paintings are created by having little tiny planar shapes, each assign their own color. And that local color, for in my instance, is a yellow, because it's a lemon, is shifting and changing, getting a little more orange, getting a little more green, getting a little darker with every single little shape. And you use those shifts of color to help create the volume of the object. So you're shifting in many different ways, right? You are shifting when the color gets darker, you get that value to be a little darker in your paint, but it often, when it gets darker, is also going to get a little more neutral, less saturated, less bright. So you mix in that complement. So the complement of yellow is violet. So I'm going to mix a lot of violet into these neutral tones to make it darker, to make it more neutral, right? And then also violet is going to be cooler. So the color is also going to get cooler as it moves away from this warm light that I've set up. So when you set up your light source, again, make sure it's a warm light bulb, not a cool light bulb, so that it doesn't confuse you. Then your cast shadows are going to be nice and cool. They're going to be a darker, cooler version of whatever you paint this background. The background is white, but I made it slightly violet so that this yellow can really pop off of it, right? And now I'm going to walk you through that when I do the live demonstration. So the first thing you need to do is get your setup, get your paper. Again, use your blue tape to tape off around 10 by 10 or 12 by 12 inches. It can be square, it can be a little rectangular, that's up to you. Then you're going to put your painting, your palette down, set up your still life with your light source on the white piece of paper, one lemon, and you're going to lay out your colors. Remember, every color in your painting kit except for black. Now, it's important to have a nicely organized palette, so I'm going to put a picture up here so you can see the way I organize my colors. As you paint more and more, you'll come up with your own system, but what I like to do is you see in the lower left-hand corner, I start with my darkest earth tone. So if I had black, I'd put that first, but we're not using it in this painting. So first I put my raw umber, right, because that's my darkest earth tone, and then I move to my burnt sienna, then up my raw sienna, then my yellow ochre, right? So that's all of my earth tones from dark to light. It's just so that I can find them quickly while I'm painting. Then I go in terms of the color wheel. Next closest to yellow ochre would be in the color wheel, my cadmium yellow light, then my cadmium red medium. Next closest to red would be alizarin crimson, since it's a red violet, my ultramarine blue, and then the new blue that we have, the cerulean blue. And then, as you can see on the bottom right-hand corner of my palette, very far away from all my other colors, I put a bunch of white, right? So that it doesn't get all muddy and dirty and it stays clean as long as possible. And when I'm making my mixtures, I pull in from those batches of color and have a large area in the center of my palette to mix, right? Because I'm going to be trying to move around my palette to keep my colors that I'm mixing as wet as long as possible so I can keep drawing from them. So you want to keep your paints all along the perimeter, outside edges of your palette so you have a lot of room to work. Okay, so again, we're using a full palette on paper to paint one lemon using a new technique of color faceting.